Hey everybody, Chad Hyams here, author of Achieve Your Apex and host of this podcast. Welcome back to the final episode of our momentum series. Now, we've talked about how to create momentum, how to protect momentum, and how to rebuild momentum when it slows down. Today, we go one step further, how to master momentum. Because once you do, momentum will no longer be something you chase. It becomes something you live. So, momentum mastery isn't about hype, it's about rhythm. Okay? It's not a lucky streak or a burst of motivation. It's a system of motion that keeps producing results even on your toughest days. Most people lose momentum because they mistake excitement for consistency. The pros, the ones you watch and wonder how do they just keep doing it again and again. They have three anchors that make their progress automatic. That is the momentum mastery framework. System, state, standards. Let's start with the system. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. James Clear said that, and you've probably heard 100 people say it in slightly different ways to make it their own. Duke University confirmed it. Nearly 45% of what you do every single day runs on habit. 45%. Almost half of your life happens without any conscious thought. Think about that for a second. If half of your day is automatic, you need to make sure your automation is working for you, not against you. So, do you want to know the difference between momentum and stagnation? Of course you do. It's whether your environment is built to serve your intentions or sabotage them. When your shoes are ready, your gym playlist queued up, and your top priority is visible before coffee, your brain will move before resistance can even talk you out of it. That's not motivation. That's engineering. Success is not about discipline alone. It's about design. Discipline is not something you can always rely on. So remember, success is about design. Harvard Business Review found that people who pre-plan environments for success, setting visible cues or blocking time, outperform their peers up to 60%. Systems eliminate excuses. When you build them right, progress becomes predictable. The second piece of the framework, state. Now, let's talk about your state. I don't mean the state you live in. I'm talking mental state because momentum can't survive mental clutter. Momentum thrives on clarity. Stanford researchers discovered short focused sprints followed by intentional recovery increased performance by more than 25%. That's why recovery isn't a break, it's a strategy. You've heard me say it before. Your energy is your operating system. Silence is one of the most underrated performance enhancers you have. Stanford studies show that 2 hours of silence per day increases the growth of new brain cells in the hippocampus. And that's the area that controls learning and memory. So, shh, and enjoy that silence now and then. Quiet isn't empty. Quiet is fuel. Take time every day. Step away from the noise, from the notifications on your phone, from the nonstop input, and just breathe, think, reset. You're not lazy when you pause. You're smart enough to be charging the battery. Harvard neuroscientists proved that when willpower is depleted, decision quality drops by half. So rest before you crash. You'll never have to rebuild from zero again. You won't go through that roller coaster ride of weight gain, weight loss, weight gain, weight loss. You won't go through that roller coaster ride of business, no business, business, no business. You won't go through that roller coaster ride of financially comfortable, broke, financially comfortable, broke. Rest before you crash, and you'll never rebuild from zero again. The third part of the framework is standards. Momentum mastery is about standards, not speed. Your standards are the invisible guardrails that keep you aligned when nobody is watching. Okay, one of my clients had a record-breaking quarter recently, then eased off a little. He said, I needed a little break. Okay, the little break ended up lasting 6 weeks. When we talked about it, he realized he'd started lowering what his standards were, showing up a little late, skipping that gym workout, taking quote unquote shortcuts. So we rebuilt his foundation by raising one question. What does excellent look like when no one's grading you? Answer that one for yourself. What does excellence look like when no one is grading you? Within 2 months, his numbers were higher than before. His confidence was back where it belonged. Okay, Gallup data shows people with clear personal standards are 57% more productive and 83% more engaged. Standards protect your progress when motivation decides to take a break of its own. Now, we hit plateaus, the hidden test of momentum, as we can call them. Because here's where most people fall off the plateau. The quiet middle ground where you're not crashing, you're not climbing, you're just coasting. That's when the brain gets bored, starts looking for novelty instead of mastery. And that's where most of us fail. Just think about a treadmill. I hate the treadmill, right? At first, the belt feels like progress. You're sweating, your heart gets pumping, the metrics climb on the screen in front of you, and 20 minutes later, you finally realize I'm going nowhere. I'm going nowhere. So frustrating. Momentum mastery means noticing that moment and asking, am I moving forward or am I just moving? You see, the plateau is not punishment. It's the invitation for you to level up. You don't break a plateau by pushing harder. You break it by shifting smarter. Change the incline. Change the playlist you're listening to. Change the target. Reignite engagement without abandoning the consistency you have. A 2021 Journal of Applied Psychology study found small environmental or goal tweaks during repetitive performance reignited engagement and prevented the dreaded burnout. In other words, when the path feels flat, change the view, not the direction. Look at something else. Okay? Systems, state, standards. They're your triangle of sustainable motion. Systems create flow, state creates energy, and standards define excellence. When those three align, momentum becomes identity. You don't chase it, you embody it. Remember that surfer analogy I shared with you in a recent episode? They paddle out, that's the system. They balance through turbulence, that's the state. They decide to paddle back out again after the wave crashes, that's their standard. And that is mastery right there. The best surfers aren't the ones who ride the biggest waves. They're the ones who paddle out again and again and again, season after season after season. Let me leave you with this challenge. Write these 3 words somewhere you'll see them regularly. System, state, standards. Then answer these 3 questions. What system keeps me in motion this week? What habit protects my energy and my focus? And what standard will I refuse to lower no matter what? When you do that, you'll stop asking how to find motivation. You'll know how to manufacture it. That's the difference between movement and mastery. If the momentum series has hit home with you, Share it with someone that's been running on empty lately. Grab your copy of Achieve Your Apex, available on Amazon, Audible, or go to the website achieveyourapex.com, because the climb never ends. We just change our elevation. Keep fueling your systems, protect that state, raise your standards, and as always, keep climbing.